Right, so we want to calculate some frequencies here. Let's see, actually cumulative frequencies, cumulative relative frequencies, and cumulative percentages for this question. So first of all, we need to think, just recall that cumulative means we are pretty much keeping a running total of something. So if it's cumulative frequency, we're keeping a running total of the frequencies as we work our way down the chart. If it's cumulative relative frequencies, we're keeping a running total of the relative frequencies, and then percentages, a running total of the percentages. So let's see. The following table gives the frequency distribution of the ages of a random sample of 118 students. Okay, so there's 118 people represented here in this chart. So if I add 8 plus 25 plus 6 plus 21 plus 19 plus 17 plus 22, it's supposed to be 118. I'll trust it. Okay. Now we'll actually verify that in just a sec. So the way you calculate the cumulative frequency of the group 10 through 19. So this is grouped quantitative data, by the way. See, there's ages all over the place. Here, the lowest ages are, in the 10 to 19 class, and the highest ages are in the 70 to 79. So the ages are like all over the place. Therefore, instead of having a single class for every possible age, we grouped in as according to this chart here. So basically, that cuts down on the length of the chart when we use grouped quantitative data. That makes the chart more readable. Whenever you have a lot of different, very widely varied data set, quantitative data set. So let's see. The way you calculate the cumulative frequency is you take the frequency of this class or any class that came before it. Well, it's the first class, so there is no class before it, so the frequency of it is just 8, which is also going to be the cumulative frequency. Here, let's get it maybe a little better color. Yeah, there we go. 8. Okay. Now, for 20 to 29, the way you calculate cumulative frequency is you take the frequency of this class and add it to all of the prior frequencies. So 25 is the frequency of the class 20 to 29, but we need to add it to any of the prior frequencies. So 8. So that's going to give us what? 8 plus 25 is 33. And then we repeat that as we work our way down the chart. The cumulative frequency of the class 30 to 39 is going to be 6 plus any of the frequencies that came before it. So 6 plus 25 plus 8. Well, I already know what 25 plus 8 is. It's 33. So I need to do 6 plus 33 gives us 39. And then the next class, the 40 to 49 class, the cumulative frequency is going to be 21 plus all of the prior frequencies. Now, all of the prior frequencies should be 39. So 39 plus 21 would be what? 60, I guess, if I did that in my head right. Again, we're basically adding 8 plus 25 plus 6 plus 21. And yeah, it should be 60. And then for the 50 to 59 class, we have the frequency of 19 as the frequency of the class. But for cumulative, you want 19 plus all the prior frequencies, which all the prior frequencies had a cumulative total of 60. So 60 plus 19 is 79. And then you just see, at this point, just follow the pattern. For 60, 69, we use 17 plus 79. So let's see, 17 plus 79 would be 80 plus 16 would be 96, I suppose. And then for the last entry, it's the sum of all the frequencies because we do 22, that's the frequency of the last class, plus all the prior frequencies, which is just the sum of all frequencies. Let's see. If you add 2, you get 98, and then 98 plus 20 would give you 118. Notice that we got 118, which is exactly what we were told was the total of all of the people in the sample. So that makes sense that that would have to be 118. So that's one way to check your cumulative frequency column. Okay, so that was cumulative frequencies. Now what about cumulative relative frequencies? Well, we actually probably need to calculate the relative frequencies first, because nowhere are the relative frequencies already calculated for us. So remember what a relative frequency is. Relative frequency is the frequency of the class divided by the total frequencies, the sum of all frequencies. So to calculate relative frequency here, I'm just going to make another column to this chart. Let's see if I can squeeze it in. Relative frequency. Let's see here. So we need to take each of those class frequencies. Wow, I can't draw a straight line all of a sudden. Take each of those class frequencies and divide by 118. Now we want to be careful with rounding, because we need to round our final answers. Let's see. Round the cumulative relative frequencies to 3 decimal places. Okay, so we want to round, let's round our relative frequencies to 4 places, so then we can round our answers here to 3 places. That's probably a good way to handle that. So let's see. Calculator will be needed for this. So we're going to take each of our frequencies and divide by 118. So 8 divided by 118. Let's see, we're going to round that to 4 places. Oh, that's going to be a weird one to 4 places. So let's make it 5. It never hurts to round to, at this point, since this is not our final answer, it never hurts to save more places. So that's going to be 0. Now this is going to be a really tight fit. I'm going to change colors here. 0 point what? 0677. 0677 97. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 6 places. Who cares? It's not our final answer, so it doesn't have to be perfect right now. But you want to save more decimal places rather than less. All right, then the next one's 25 divided by 118. So that is, here, I guess I'll do 6 places again. That's fine. 0.21186. 211,864. All right, then 6 divided by 118. This is going to be, that's 0508. 0.050847. Then 21 divided by 118. So 1779. 177966. 19 divided by 118. 1610. 161017. Then 17 divided by 118. 0.144,068. Then the last one is 22 divided by 118. That is going to be 0.1864 0.186441. Okay, so there's our relative frequencies. Sometimes those will be calculated for you, but we had to go ahead and take a few minutes to do that. So cumulative relative frequencies is when we do a running total of the relative frequencies. So we're going to do the exact same thing we did here, adding up as we work our way down the chart, except we're going to do it with the relative frequencies instead of frequencies. So let's see. The cumulative relative frequency of the first class is going to be the relative frequency of the first class plus any classes that came before it, but there are none. So it's just going to be 0. Now we need to round to 3 places now. Third decimal place. So we're going to say that's 0.068 to the third place. So 0.068. Rounding to 3 places. Now, for the 20 to 29 class, we're going to do the relative frequency of the second class plus the prior relative frequencies. Now, we do need to be careful here. I'm going to always refer back to this column here because we don't want to get in trouble with rounding. It'd be easy to get in trouble with rounding. So I'm always going to go back to this chart, this column, when I'm calculating these cumulative relative frequencies. So let's see. We're going to say 0.067797. That's the first relative frequency, plus the second relative frequency, 0.211864. So the first two relative frequencies add together. That's going to be the cumulative relative frequency of the second class. If we round this to 3 places, okay, this is kind of a weird one to 3 places. So we look at the fourth place as a 6. So it says round the 9 up. So we have to round the 9 to basically 10, which turns that into a 0, which turns that into an 8. So it's 0.280. So 0.280. Now here's what we can do. Notice here in the calculator, I have the first 2 added up. The cumulative relative frequency of the third class, well, we just need to add the next relative frequency, which is 0.05, so 0.050847. So we're adding the third relative frequency, which is 0.050847. And now we need to round that to 3 places. So looking at the fourth place, it's a 5. Therefore, we round the 0 up to a 1, so 0.331. Oops, sorry about that. 331. And now for the fourth class, we just add the fourth relative frequency, which is plus 0.177966. And we get, let's see, if we round that to 3 places, that's just 0.508. And then for the next class, the 50 to 59, we just add this next relative frequency. Notice all I have to do is hit plus. It's going to take my previous answer, which is the previous relative frequency, and add the next one. So plus 0.166, oh, no, sorry, 161017, round that to 0.669, it looks like. Then the next relative frequency, we would add, let's see, 0.144068. 0.144068. And we get 0.81814 if we round that to 3 places. 814. Now, what do you suppose this last entry should be? If this is the sum of all the relative frequencies, what do you suppose the sum of all the relative frequencies is supposed to be? So we're going to add 0.186441. And what do you see? The sum of all the relative frequencies should always be 1, or really close to 1. Now, due to rounding error, sometimes you might get like 0.9999 or 1.0001 or something like that, but it should be either 1 or very, very, very close to 1. But if you get either 1 or very, very close to 1, you can be rest assured that this column is done correctly. Just like if you got a relative frequency that is the number you're supposed to have, like 118, in the last entry on the cumulative frequency column, then you can be rest assured that you probably did it all correctly. I suppose it is possible that you made maybe 2 mistakes that canceled each other out, but that's probably not the case. Now, percentages, how do you get from percentages how do you get two percentages from relative frequencies? Well, you multiply by 100. So notice we're supposed to round the percentages to 1 decimal place. Well, we already have cumulative relative frequencies, so we should just be able to multiply all these values by 100 to get percentages. Now, technically, I guess what we should do maybe is calculate the percentage column, which is multiply all these numbers by 100, move the decimal place 2 times. But since we've already done the work, basically all we have to do is move all these decimal places to the right twice. So this is in decimal form, that's 0.068, but that's 6.8%. 6.8. 0.28 is 28%. We don't have to write 0.0 because that's not necessary. 0.331 is 33.1. 0.508 is 50.8. 0.669 is 66.9. 0.814 is 81.4%. And then 1, don't let it trip you up, it's 100%. So here we have calculated the cumulative percentages by simply multiplying each of these entries by 100 to go from cumulative relative frequencies to cumulative percentages. Okay, just to summarize, we did cumulative frequencies, which is just a running total of your frequencies from top to bottom, from the first class to the last class. And then for cumulative relative frequencies, we did have to calculate the relative frequencies first. Be careful with your rounding. I rounded these values to 6 decimal places, and then because I don't want to round these to 3, because if you round these to 3, you might get some error when you start adding up the frequencies to get these entries. So you want to round these to more decimal places than your final answer, just to be on the safe side. And then to get percentages, we just multiply by 100, the relative frequencies by 100 to get the percentages. So if you have any questions, like always, let me know. I'll be more than happy to help out.